Let's turn our attention now to hedge funds and what some of the most watched billionaire investors have been buying as well as selling this year. Today's deadline, of course, for filing paperwork with the SEC that outlines investments made in the first quarter. If you're a big hedge fund, you got to file the paperwork, which means we get to figure out what the pros have been buying and selling. Dom Chu, you've been taking a look at these 13F filings.
13F filings, because if you manage more than $100 million in this country, you got to disclose every single quarter what you've bought and what you've sold. Now, here's the caveat. Only long positions, first of all right? So this is what they're buying and what they've sold off. There are no indications here about what they've sold short. In other words, you can't get the whole picture, but still, it gives you an idea, at least, about what's happening. So let's start you off with some of the more recent ones here. We do have one big one we want to talk about, and that's big macro investor, big picture economy investor, and that's Lewis Moore Bacon, the founder of Moore Capital. Take a look at some of the big ones. Citigroup is still his #1 holding. He's got about 5.2 million shares of this. This is as of March 31st. Interestingly enough, his top new positions, ones he didn't have before, the Spider Retail ETF, that ticker, you know,
we were talking about that one,
right?
Yes.
The XRT. So that's his biggest new holding, along with Morgan Stanley, both new positions. He's gotten completely out of AIG and completely out of Wells Fargo, so a little bit of a swap there within the financials. That's something interesting to talk about for sure.
Yeah, very much so. And the move to the consumer, and of course, consumer stocks have been leading up about 22%.
Well, here's the interesting part about this, because you get an ETF like that, you bring a lot in there, but it might be a hedge against some other short individual names in the retailer that you might be, going against. So again, no full picture, but still an indication. Another big one here, Star hedge fund manager David Tepper, Appaloosa. That's the reason why we care, because the man made a lot of money during the subprime crisis here. His biggest holding, yes, Citigroup. So a lot of bets on Citigroup here. Top new buy. He's big into media now. He just took about a $69 million position in Comcast shares, CMCSA. His biggest position decrease, he joins a host of hedge fund managers who have been getting out of Apple. He sold about 40% of his stake in Apple, along with other hedge fund managers as well. So these are a couple big names that we want to talk about simply because they have themes associated with them.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing, the bud off the Apple rose, right? I mean, for 12 straight years.
Incredible.
Well, if you talk, think about it this way, guys. Another Apple name that we haven't talked about yet, a 13F that we're watching for, David Einhorn, Greenlight Capital, the man who made a very public statement about Apple and its capital return plans. We want to see whether or not Greenlight Capital has been adding to positions in Apple or cutting them back. So that's another big one. Apple's going to be a big story. We know already that a lot of hedge funds, including Chase Coleman's Tiger Global, also cut their stake in Apple as well. So a lot of big themes developing. Of course, we're still waiting on other big names like Dan Loeb at Third Point Capital. He just made his Sony announcement that he's buying shares there to be a bit more of an activist. We already know he's the biggest holder of Yahoo. And Herbalife, Trish, remember, as of the end of last year, he had
Herbalife, right?
Well, he was the top 4 shareholder in Herbalife. So we'll see what he's doing with that stake, adding to it or perhaps taking away from it. Some of the big ones that we're looking for this afternoon.